Okay, it's time to get the wolf out, the wolf knife. The only most reliable wolf I know. And cut open a parcel. This is an Amazon parcel and very light. I think it's an air pump for the enclosure. We'll see. And yeah, in the interest of showing you every step of this way of this project, we're opening this. Of course, like I've said before, this side of October, this is slow going. I want to, part of me really does want to share everything with you all in one go and get it all done in one go, but that can't even happen anyway, even if I was able to buy more this side of October, because the enclosure needs to be settled, established, an ecosystem going before we even put like the main characters of the show in. So the plants can be a main character of a show for a while as well, and certainly they are a very important part of the aesthetic appeal as well as the biology going on. So just cut this open with a knife, and yeah, it's just an small Amazon box. Air pump. It is an air pump. So I went for a very low powered air pump, 2.0 watt. This, if I get the plug thing with a timer on, will come on at night for a few hours, X amount of hours. Why at night, not just on throughout the day, you might ask? Well, the plants are adding oxygen to the water and through photosynthesis throughout the day, which will also be timed lighting. Oh, we got silicon tubing. You could never have enough of that when you have an aquatic hobby. So at night, plants will be taking oxygen out of the water. You're going to get a carbon dioxide buildup unless there's water surface agitation to allow the exchange rate of gases here and there. That's very important when you're keeping things like, the Neocardina shrimp. I went blank there thinking about the name. And Chili Rosboras, Octocinclus, if that's how you pronounce it. Catfish, but not a true catfish, but it, as some people might say, it's certainly the Octocinclus. A lot of people said, "Oh no, don't get them; they're too delicate." They're only delicate when it comes to water changes, and people don't do the water changes in a delicate way. A lot of the time, in a very rough way. They siphon out a load and then just go and pour in another load, and you let your water settle for 2 weeks or more and just slow drip the water back, the water that's been standing back into the enclosure, and don't allow too many sudden fluctuations in temperatures, and the catfish will be fine. They are able to adapt to a range of water parameters if they're not sudden. That's where people have gone wrong with that. So you've got a UK power cable. One thing the UK got better than any country is our power plugs. And that's not me going, hey, UK's better than the... No, we got some things right. We got a lot terribly wrong. Don't get me confused with American brainwashing. But they do over there. It's like, we're the best country. And they everything. Cheshire hit the nail on the head when she said everything about American freedom. Just a flat out lie. It's about time I heard somebody else say that other than myself. I've been saying it for a couple of decades, 2 decades, 20 years, it feels like. Plug that on there. I'm going to plug this in and just see. There's, I think that's a valve to adjustable valve to adjust the pressure. The check valve. I checked valve. There is, it goes on there. Check valve comes actually. Right, okay. Out of here. No. Okay, snip a bit off there. This shouldn't be complicated anyway. I just plug it in. It's just a valve that should be able to adjust it to adjust the airflow, and it's already weak comparative to, you know, if you got a really massive enclosure you want. Oh, it's really, that's really quiet. I mean, you can hear it. You probably, and that probably sounds louder than it actually is against the microphone. But it's vibrating away there. And it just pumps air. I don't know where I can rest it though. You might hear vibration like downstairs. If you listen to the wall or something, you might hear a vibration because this will. And that sounds extreme. Only a minor vibration. A building we lived in out in the. Well, we are still in the countryside, but much further out. Had an air pump then upstairs for an aquarium, and it was you go back what was called the side porch, just a side. Well, I'd have a kind of your jargon elsewhere might be different. A side porch. I don't know what else to call it. You just open the side door, and it's just a straight passageway to straight out the back, where you can put, you know, away from the actual main household. It's a side porch. We had a freezer in there, other things in there. So I'm gonna drop this in the enclosure just to see. Yeah, I mean that's quite a lot of surface agitation, as you can see. Well, you can't see it at the moment. And there you can. There you go. Yeah, I want that to be less than that, ideally, or perhaps just bring it up closer to the surface, because I don't want to generate too much water current. The occupants are really used to relatively still waters. Not the occupants that are in there at the moment, because there's no main occupants at the moment. The occupants I got in mind to put in there. I do sleep in this room, but when that kicks in, that's not going to bother me much. I'm going to need to find a way to pin this down, because the vibration kind of makes it walk a bit. You see that? Yeah, how are we going to do that? I guess. Well, that's what I built the shelf for. If I can use an extension there and get this propped up on top on the shelf, and the tubing just down below it, from the back of it actually. Let's just move that. And the basic idea, the cable's not long enough at the moment, but I'll get the so that works, and that will be in there. to sort something out. Sort something out. I'll do a separate video on how the costs so far, because this will cost quite a bit just to get it going initially. But the way I want it to get going, let's turn that off. Oh, wrong one. The way I want it to get it going will be relatively very low cost past a certain point relative to other ways of doing this. And initially it's relatively expensive, but think about those ready built enclosures, and they have all this bio stuff in there to get your tank started, you know, cycle and all this. A lot of that's a con to me, but you know, that's many of those are way more expensive at the moment compared to what I've spent so far. Although initially I may end up paying for something that's relatively close to something similar. Overall though, you're saving more money long term. Lighting, LED lighting, is definitely a lot cheaper than bulbs, like proper larger bulbs. And that can be timed in a cycle as well. So let me adjust the blind here, because it's making that look quite dark. There's some tannins come out again. It's a little bit dark. I'll get that partially changed. There we go, better. But it's not as dark, the water, as it has been. All the tannins are coming out of the wood, colour in the water like this, like tea stain colour. As I've said before, a little bit of tanning in the water will be actually beneficial to the occupants I have, because in the wild, that's really the type of water they're in. Vegetation, leaves, wood leaks out tannins naturally out there in nature, and a lot of these still streams to estuaries that these creatures live in will live in water like that anyway, and it makes the water slightly acidic. Not too much, or you don't want it too acidic, because it can literally hurt and burn the gills of the chili rasboras I'm going to be having, and the catfish. And you know, shrimp will adjust to even alkaline water too soft. They do better in soft water, the type of shrimp at least that I'm going to be having as occupants. But again, water parameters, as long as they're reasonably slow in change from the perspective of the creatures, that's something they will be able to adapt to. But you don't want sudden changes that will stress the occupants out and, you know, basically shorten their lifespan. So I'm going to drain this a little, maybe about to, I don't know, 25%. So you can see the moss. It's not lit up at the moment, so I don't have the light in yet. There's some moss growing now. That's the Java moss is actually growing now in there. So it's actually attaching itself to the wood. So that's doing okay at the moment. So let me readjust the camera. There we go. And again, if you want to help, if you want to see this momentum speeding up this project, I'll be able to do more if I can get support with people, maybe crowdfunding on the throne, if you're interested. There will be more momentum. The other side of October, it's not even October yet, but this side of October, things are a little bit tight. I need dental treatment. I'm going to be getting a tattoo. So I'm going to be a little bit strapped for cash prior to the other side of October. And it's not too bad, but you know, all I'm saying, like, if you really want to see it pick up momentum, there's ways around that. So the links below for the throne and all that. I'm interested in learning enough that I haven't really don't know too much about before with this, because the project will expand in capacity as well as maybe different occupants as well further down the line, and maybe sometime next year, maybe this time next year. But this time next year I hope to have, obviously the vase will be well established by then, but a secondary enclosure established and a tubing linking both enclosures, and other occupants in one enclosure, and the occupants will be able to go to and fro through the tubing. But that's all further down the line. I can't afford all that right now. But there's plans for this project, and I know I'm going to enjoy it. I've come to this hobby and gone away from the hobby and come back to it. Everybody's ever done it always comes back to it. It's fascinating to watch some of these occupants, and it's like having a bit of a piece of nature in your own home. Very relaxing, and you know, it's a mental health thing as well. There's something therapeutic about it, and like a meditative kind of thing. And it can be rewarding, especially you get that moment when you breed in like Corydorus. We bred some Corydorus. We bred live bearing fish, and there was never a kind of fish some kind of tetra, the name escapes me, we bred them. And it's interesting to watch, and it's rewarding to know that you did that. These fish are happy and healthy enough that they actually breed. And they were happy and healthy enough because of something you did. And it's that rewarding feeling. It's fascinating to watch. And yeah, things to be aware of if you want to breed a certain species. You gotta look into, do they have parenting skills, or do they just look after the eggs and then ditch everything once the eggs start hatching, or do they follow through, be protective of the young? And all those different categories require different responsibilities on your behalf to get the environment maintained in a way that supports the animal's efforts to protect the young, as opposed to small live bearing carp, that is guppies, swordtails, platies, however you pronounce it, platies, I think. They're all live bearing carp. They have live young. Don't lay eggs. They're live tiny fish that just come out of them. It's fascinating to watch that process happen, but there's no parenting skills at all. They don't know what it. There's no concept on the creature, that the animal of, that's another one of me. It needs support or whatever. But they appear to like each other's company as adults shown in, but they don't know this little tiny thing. Oh, it's food. It's a pack. It's a little tiny wrapped up lunch in a lunchbox. It's not wrapped up in anything, but I'm trying to give a metaphor. Oh, this is a package of food swimming around, and they go for it. So plants can help alleviate that happening as these babies being food, because they can, particularly dense foliage, the babies can go down deep into the foliage where the adults can't get to if you wanted to breed some of these. And we've done things like that, had plants before that aided that kind of thing. There's all kind of more synthetic ways to save your babies, like tanks where a divider with tiny slits in where only babies can swim through and go to the other side, the adults can't. It's all different ways to do it. Just one more thing to note or to change. bucket full of water. Ignore the jar. There's scuds and other things, creatures in there. Water in large white bucket coming off into here, and this is what you want really in a water change when you have some delicate species. They're not really delicate, but they're delicate to sudden changes in water parameters. But generally the water should be very similar to what you've already got in there, and you can see that leaking out. Slow flow from there. What's making it flow? Or just gravity. Empty tube. You suck a little on the tube a little bit, and it will cause the water to come down, and then you just hang the tube in lower than the bucket, this bucket, and gravity will do the rest for you. Will fill up and replace. Just watch it that it doesn't overflow, of course, because there's actually more water in the bucket than there is required for replacement at the moment. And the tools I had for aquascaping, that's ideal just to pin the pipe on a little bit. Of course, you know, this would be like a tweezers in other use, but you know, improvise. And you know, you would not going to have this fall out or flop around, because a lot of people end up with trying to do this. They end up with arm ache trying to keep the tube in place, and they're going to be there for the whole duration of the water change, which has them get impatient and you sod it, going to do a water change quickly. Then it stresses out occupants. So this is one way. This is a handy tip. Very simple. Not rocket science, right? Handy tip to do that. So I'm lucky to have a window shelf, a window sill, deep enough to put the bucket on. That's going to come in very handy as this project evolves over time. And want to see a snail? That's a ram's horn snail. Looking very healthy. That can be used to, I can use those to breed them, sell them, use them for cleanup crew. And there's different arguments about them being pest in some enclosures versus others and so on. We're getting to that. We're getting some of the debates are really enjoyable, and some people are correct. Within a certain setup, some things can be passed. Within other setups, they can be a great aid. Depends how you're going to be going about doing this. There's plenty of ways to do this. Good and reasonable. There's plenty of horrible, backward, stupid ways to do it as well. And we try to avoid them like the plague, right? What's all happening today? It's unusual for Amazon to send one parcel, then another parcel separately in one day. Normally they put it all in one. I got another Amazon parcel today, so I'm going to put all these videos together. So where's my trusty wolf? Again, this is the most reliable wolf I know. Called by Wolfcraft. Wolfcraft, there we go. Very sharp. So let's see what we got. I think this might be sand. Let's see. Take that off first. Here we go. Let's see. Well, it might be the lava rocks. listening to how it's shaking about. Lava rock. One bag of lava hot rock and one empty box. So I don't know if this comes like damp or wet or squidgy dirty or just been dry and dusty or what state it comes in. Let's have a look, shall we? Pretty dry. Of course, it might be something else that needs washing though, because you're gonna get all the dirt, residue off and dust. To see the porousness of this, ideal surface area for bacteria. Things like Java moss can attach to that porousness. Java moss sends out. It's not like true roots. It's modified like tendrils to attach itself to things like driftwood and other surfaces, which is why you got to be careful with, you know, when you're aquascaping or trying to trim back some Java moss. You cut in, siphon out that which you're cutting off, unless you want some other bits growing elsewhere, because it will latch on to rough surfaces like this. You know, again, if you want it on those surfaces, great, fine. It's very rough. Very rough. And some people say be careful because of some delicate species might find this abrasive, but no, this is fine. And this will be at the bottom of the tank mostly. Chili rasboras, which I'm going to be keeping, or rasboras, however you pronounce it, will be like mid-water occupants anyway. They will venture on its surface, on the bottom occasionally, but usually not. This is ideal surface area for shrimp to perch on and pick away once you got like biofilms and all kinds of things growing on that. The surface area for that is absolutely ideal for the certain types of biology to grow on that. There will be much smaller lava rock, fine like gravel, as well as aqua soil, fluvial aqua soil. I'll be buying that sometime, maybe in a few weeks, unless other people can. I'll add it to my. I keep hinting. I'll add it to my Throne account now. If I get completely established, those things will still be on Throne account anyway, because I want to expand the project anyway, and it's always useful to have a spare or something, right? I'm still siphoning off, as you saw in a previous part of it. I did 3 videos already here, and you're gonna see it as one video. Sorry about knocking on the microphone there. And it's this filling up. We're not far off full again now. I assume it's still coming through okay. It looks like it is. Let's see. Yes, it's still pouring down, and that's ideal. So yeah, that does feel rather dusty. I don't know if you could see it. This like, so I'm going to put a bunch of these lava rocks in, swish them around, and you're going to get the dust off this and pour that away. This is not intended for aquatic things, but it can be used for it. It's very popular now within the hobby, anyway, in the industry. So as it gets more popular, you're going to see more and more of this sold with labeling of ideal for certain enclosures and so on. There's a big one there. Look. this will also help to add certain things into the water that plants can use as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that. We'll get into a few other things in biology, why these things are so beneficial as well, later down the line. Pleased with that. That looks great. That was a good price for all that. There's too many there, but again, spares, replacements, expansions here and there. So look at the dust. You can't see that. Maybe you can. There's a lot of dust coming off that. So gotta watch my allergies. That might get me sneezing. This time of year I tend to get a bit sneezy. Also, this time of year you think, well, season's coming to an end. There's not many flowers about. I think it's fungal spores. I live in a rural area, and they say the fungal spores are out. It's every year around September I get a bit sneezy. I have had hay fever on and off, suffered with it on and off. Never goes away anyway. For years in my early 20s, suffered greatly. Early 20s was rough. But mostly just grew out of it, or something happened where it didn't bother me as much. Occasionally, certainly September, I was the same last year. Sneezing, eyes itchy. But look at the porousness of that. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, a little tiny. There we go. Focus on that. That is absolutely ideal. You know, the things that can live on that and attach to it and find an anchor, the surface area of that is absolutely ideal for good bacteria, biofilms, algae, crustaceans that live in tiny bugs that get this food web going, helping to break down waste and so on. It's almost like this can be like a filter as well for removing toxins and the bacteria build up in those porous structure that break down the waste and to then being released out of the lava rock to plants as well. Certain types of plants can attach themselves to this and feed very well off all that biological goings on within the porousness of this. Some plants do not need to be rooted, like the Java moss, for instance, and Anubias. We're going to be planting some Anubias or attaching some Anubias. They won't need to be rooted. They draw nutrients straight from the water column. Although there will be others that will need to be rooted in and draw nutrients from the substrate. Thank you for watching again. I'll add this on to the end of these 3 videos. So it was air pump, siphoning, lava rock, and other things I've talked about, shared with you. You saw a snail, so on. And yeah, thank you for watching. More will be coming. Take care. Hope you're very well and you have a good day. Cheers. Bye. Sand. Got my sand. Just arrived. One more addition for today. Adding on to the video from additions from yesterday. Peace out. Bye bye.